Rome's catacombs sweated cold under a swollen blood moon. Torches licked damp stone. Their light trembled as hooded priests circled a bound slave boy bare-chested, branded, throat bared to a basalt knife. The lead celebrant hissed, "Tenebris impera," and the blade inclined toward living pulse. Then every flame shivered blue and died. From the pillars unstitched, two silhouettes, robes as nightfall, skin like moon-washed marble, eyes ember red. When they smiled, ivory fangs caught the last breath of light. "End your theater," said the first, voice a velvet razor. Livia. Her twin's laugh slid like silk over steel. "Drusilla." Panic unraveled the circle. A priest lunged. Livia's fingers closed, wrist snapped, dagger clattered. Drusilla's nail drew a red line under another's chin. The line opened, and prayer turned to gargle. The altar's chanting fell into wet, irregular silence. Only the slave remained, shivering against rope and stone. Livia slit his bonds with a casual flick. "Stand," he staggered. I'm nobody." "Names," Drusilla said, head tilted like a curious feline. "Aelius," he whispered. Livia brushed grime from his branded chest and stilled. Under the slave brand, a faint laurel scar waited like a ghost. Not keloid, not accident imperial. Drusilla leaned close. The air between them smelled of iron and poppy smoke. Outside, thunder rumbled across roofs and aqueducts. The blood moon seemed to throb. "You are not merely a boy for knives," Livia murmured. "You are a revelation the city tried to bury." Boots hammered in the corridor, praetorian guard, bronze greaves, discipline like a drum. Drusilla took Aelius by the wrist. "If you wish to live, you must follow monsters." They slipped through ossuaries of stacked skulls. Shadows flinched. Frescoes wept salt. Behind them, the chamber doors burst. Roman steel sang. Livia turned, smiling with all her teeth. "Come then, hounds of Caesar." What followed was a ballet of ruin. The twins moving faster than thought, heel against larynx, wrist through visor, a whip of hair, a gulp of breath that never returned. When a silver-etched chain bit Drusilla's shoulder, smoke lifted from her skin. Aelius, in terror, snatched a fallen shield and blundered it into a helm. The man collapsed. Aelius stood shaking over what he had done. Silence collected, sticky and copper sweet. Livia touched the boy's cheek with a finger still wet with someone else's life. "You fight like a lamb." "I am a slave," he said. "Lambs don't choose knives." "Slaves don't carry laurels in their flesh," Drusilla murmured. They wove him through a mortared seam that breathed cool night. A rusted grill gave onto the forum's underbelly. Marble columns took the moon like spears. Rome listened. In an ivy-drowned atrium, near the old Lupe Romuli relief, a twin wolf frieze cracked by earthquakes, Livia pried a tile and drew out a soot-crisp scroll. Its seal was imperial. Its script a prophecy. When blood is the moon and Rome devours Rome, the iron laurel shall awaken in flesh branded low. Saved by the sisters of night, the slave shall stand, and the heir be shown. Aelius read, lips scabbed dry. "This says me." "It names you," Livia corrected, and in the distance the prefect's horn answered with a wolf note. "And naming is a dangerous thing in Rome." They ran again, carrying a secret the city had once crowned. They surfaced beneath a grating near the Basilica Aemilia. The blood moon glazed the forum like old wine. The praetorian prefect, Decius Cornelius, advanced with 2 ranks and a crossbow cadre, behind faces impassive, formation perfect. "Seize the leavings," Decius said. "If they are vampires, ashes will do." Livia stepped from shadow as if it were a train of her gown. "Still speaking in mosaics, Decius?" He neither flinched nor smiled. "Still desecrating Rome's dead, Livia?" Arrows hissed. Livia caught one mid-flight, turned it in 2 pale fingers, and let it fall. "Try faith," she suggested, "or fire." The line broke forward. Steel screamed. Drusilla ghosted through shields. Her movement, a trick of absence, one heartbeat a man stood. The next, only his helmet remembered him. Silver chains snapped from a sergeant's fist, looped Drusilla's throat. Her gasp smoked. Aelius, helpless with terror, lunged and slammed a shield rim into the sergeant's knee. Bone went soft. The chain slackened. Drusilla tore it free, eyes bright with pain, and something more complicated when they cut to Aelius. "Do not die," she said simply. The melee ended as fast as a candle pinched. Decius withdrew 2 steps, measuring the ground in his empty gaze, and raised a black laurel medallion, its leaves shadow-etched. The moon stuttered. A cold wind crawled over the stones. "Umbra Loria," Drusilla breathed. "The Knight Senate's seal. Bring the boy," Decius ordered levelly. "The Senate will decide what belongs to Rome." "Rome decided," Livia replied, "when it branded emperors into slaves." Footsteps approached from the basilica's colonnade, an old blind woman, hair white as limewash, walking with a staff of olive wood charred at its tip. She smelled of myrrh and cellars. "Lower your voices," she croaked. "Rome is napping with a knife under her pillow." Decius's eyes flicked. The ranks eased to make way. "Sibyl," he said without respect or surprise, "you always attend tragedies." "I midwife them," she said, her blind face turned unerringly to Aelius. "Give me your hand, child." He did. She traced the brand, the hidden laurel beneath. Her mouth shaped an old prayer that cracked like dry reeds. "Iron laurel," she whispered. To the boy, or the moon, or the earth under them, none could say. "The city has kept your name in its cellar too long." She drew a blade no larger than a bread knife and, before the twins could stop her, cut her own palm, then Aelius's. Their blood met and hissed on stone, hers dark, his glinting strangely warm. Chains of Nosferati. Lex. Holy inscriptions welded by frightened monks fell from the colonnade, snaring the twins. Livia gritted her teeth. Drusilla's breath smoked. Decius lifted his hand to close, but Sibyl threw their mingled blood at the letters. They sizzled, split, and the chains shrieked like scraped flutes as they fell. "Enough," Sibyl rasped. "If the Senate wants judgment, let it convene upon true grounds." She turned her ruined hand toward the Colosseum. Somewhere below that bowl of sand and ghosts, a door the size of a small city dreamed of opening. "Beneath the arena," Sibyl said, "the 6th gate waits. There, the iron laurel crowns or devours. Take him, wolves of Rome, take him now before those who eat emperors for breakfast find better knives." Decius's horn cried. Cohorts poured into the forum like a black spill. Livia seized Aelius. Drusilla swept Sibyl close. The old woman's laughter followed them into the arcade tunnels. "Run," she urged. "Because tonight Rome is awake, and when she's awake, she chews." Behind them, the prefect's voice. "Seal the quarter. Invoke the Knight Senate." The blood moon did not blink. Dawn came to Rome as if ashamed of night. The forum shone, washed marble, whispering fountains, and yet every pigeon's wing seemed to catch a fleck of red as it passed beneath the paling moon. The market women spoke softly. The baker's heat tasted faintly of iron. In the vine-drowned villa, Sibyl stoked a brazier with resin and strips of parchment that once held imperial accounts. Smoke curled up like letters made of snakes. Aelius lay upon a cracked couch, his skin beaded with dew, the faded slave brand on his chest glowing where the hidden laurel threaded beneath it like a buried vein. Drusilla bathed his brow with rainwater caught in a bowl. "He shivers," she said. "From fever or from destiny?" "Both," Sibyl croaked. Her hair, white as candle ash, glistened with oil. "The iron laurel thrums in him. It calls, and he hears." Livia leaned in a doorway, arms crossed, a line of dried blood along her collarbone. "Crowns do not call, they command." She looked to Aelius. "You will not obey." A tremor crossed the boy's lips. "I obeyed my masters. I will not obey a metal leaf." Sibyl sniffed. "Words are cheap. Blood is currency." She reached for a pouch and scattered roots into the brazier. A sweet rot filled the room. To open the sixth gate below the Colosseum, a price must be paid. Not from him, from me. Drusilla's eyes narrowed. No more blood, seer. My blood has lost its purpose, Sybil said. Let it buy his. She turned toward the brazier, blind eyes fixed upon nothing and everything. Aelius, hold out your hand. He did. She cut his palm lightly, murmuring a prayer older than the city walls. Gold-red drops fell and hissed in the coals. Visions crowded his mind. A woman with a bronze veil singing, a cradle exchanged for a chain, a wolf under a laurel tree licking a wound as if consoling the earth. Sybil lifted the knife toward her face. Don't, Drusilla whispered. Sight is a poor lantern when the path demands darkness, the old woman said, and pressed the blade beneath her eyelid. Livia moved, but too late. The seer screamed, a tearless scream, and 2 rubies rolled down her cheeks to vanish in smoke. She shook, then steadied, her sockets hollow and black, her mouth smiling with a strange peace. The smoke changed. It threaded itself into a map roots of a laurel, curling through the earth, each tendril pointing toward an oval basin, the Colosseum. Beneath it, a second shape, a door with 6 iron leaves. Follow, Sybil said, voice near a whisper and the roar of a river at once. Bring him to the gate. But mind this, wolves, your hunger will not recognize him as heir. It will recognize him as food. Drusilla's gaze flickered to Aelius. For a heartbeat, there was a terrifying honesty in her face. Fear not of the Senate, nor of the prefect, but of herself. Then, keep your distance, Livia said. From him? Drusilla murmured. From your doom, Livia answered. Outside, a crow laughed on a cracked lintel. The sound rolled through the empty atrium, like the rattling of dice in a skull. In the bowels of Palatine Hill, where emperors had hidden their sins from daylight, a chamber of basalt breathed cold. Hooded senators took their seats at a ring of stone. Oil lamps burned with smoke the color of dry bone. Prefect Decius Cornelius knelt at the center, helmet tucked beneath his arm, eyes the gray of unpolished iron. Report, said a woman at the head of the circle, Domina Valeria. Crimson silk flowed around her like spilled wine that refused to soak into the floor. Her beauty belonged to a century that had died and left no corpse. The ritual was disrupted, Decius said. The twins retrieved the sacrifice. It is the boy we suspected. A ripple of breath passed through the chamber. The senators were old. Some were very old. A few were old in the way. Stone is old, layered with rain and fingerprints and patience. And the mark? Valeria asked. Hidden beneath the slave brand, Decius said. A laurel, not scar, not tattoo, something in the flesh. When his blood touched the ground, chains of Nosferati Lex, unbound. Valeria's smile was a blade. Then we were right to keep the iron laurel buried. Rome has survived by forgetting. Rome survives by eating, muttered a voice to her left. Send the cohors nocturna, Valeria said. Silvered chains, blessed oil, the seal of Umbra. Bring me the boy alive. Decius inclined his head. And the twins? Asked a senator whose tongue had forgotten kindness. They have become a fashion again. Every superstition wears them to parties. Valeria's gaze brightened slightly. They are mine. She lifted her wrist. The signet of House Valerius flashed a wolf's head pierced by a laurel thorn. Blood is debt. My sister's children owe me an old account. Decius rose. The lamp seemed to dim as he did. I will pay any debt you name, Domina. Pay it in silence, Valeria said. Rome must not hear the crown wake. As he turned to leave, a faint sound followed him, the low, patient rasp of laurels of iron rubbing against each other in the dark. The tunnels beneath the Colosseum wound like entrails. Torchlight wavered over brick enameled with sweat. Old sand poured from cracks as if the arena had found a way to breathe underground. Livia led, cat, quiet. Drusilla brought up the rear, indifferent to the blood that seeped through the tear in her shoulder where the silver chain had kissed her. Aelius walked between them, head lowered, palm bandaged in a strip torn from Livia's cloak. He stumbled once, then again. Drusilla caught his arm. "Do not fall," she said gently. "If you break, the crown will choose your pieces and we will lose the rest." He stared at the wound on her shoulder. "You're hurt because of me." "We were hurt before you were born," she said. "You did not invent pain." He swallowed. "I invented nothing." "Not true," Drusilla said and smiled. "You invented our interest." They came to a gate of iron thick as a man's thigh. Runes crept along it like the memory of frost. The air tasted of old nails. "The sixth gate," Livia murmured. Even her voice respected the door. "How does it open?" Aelius asked. "With appetite," Sybil had said back in the villa. "And with restraint, both together." Drusilla pressed her bleeding hand to the runes. They twitched. Nothing. Aelius, before either sister could prevent him, lifted her hand again and placed it against his lips. He kissed the blood away, 1, 2, 3 drops, and then pressed his own palm to the iron. Heat knifed through him. The laurel beneath his brand burned. Runes stirred, then writhed. The iron leaves of the door yawned outward on a breath so cold it made Livia's teeth ache. "You fool!" Livia hissed angry, not because he had erred, but because he had succeeded by risking himself. "You take her into you. Do you know what that means?" "I know what it means to be alone," he said. "I prefer not to be." The chamber beyond the door was not empty. It was full of silence that had weight. The vault was a circle, its walls ribbed with columns that resembled vertebrae. In the exact center rested a stone plinth. Upon it lay a crown of laurel leaves, forged from iron so black it seemed to drink the torchlight. Along each leaf ran a vein that pulsed with a slow, rusty glow, like a coal pretending to be dead. Around the plinth coiled chains, links etched with prayers in Latin, Greek, and a tongue that hummed in the ear but refused to be remembered by the tongue. "The iron laurel," Drusilla whispered, reverent and afraid. "Rome's second heart." Aelius stepped forward as though drawn by a string. His breath quickened. The brand on his chest throbbed in time with the crown. "Stop," Livia said. He did not. When his fingers hovered above the iron leaves, the chains sprang like serpents and bound his wrists. They burned cold, biting not flesh but a place deeper than bone. He cried out. Livia leapt. Her hands closed on the chains. Prayers seared her palms, but she pulled. The first link shrieked, as if air had been taught to suffer. The second link wailed. The third link sang a church song backward. "Enough," Drusilla said, laying her palm over Aelius's heart. The brand blazed white. The chains recoiled as if slapped. The crown trembled. A vision struck them all, not a picture but a pressure, as if time itself leaned its body against theirs. A woman ached in it, her hair smelling of frankincense, her eyes dimmed by veil and grief. She sang a lullaby to a cradle that contained not a baby but a seal of wax. Hands, men's hands, ringed and ink-stained, reached in and took the lullaby away. Somewhere, a wolf howled, and the sound cracked a star. The vault shuddered. Above them, sand sifted from the ceiling, whispering down in a slow, relentless rain. "The Senate feels the stirring," Livia said. "Then let it feel more," Aelius replied, trembling. He placed both hands upon the laurel. The crown flared once, twice, and then dimmed, as if tasting him and deciding not to feast yet. From far away came the toll of a hollow horn. The cohors nocturna had found the tunnels. "Take it," Livia said. "I can't," Aelius whispered. "It's not ready, or I'm not." "Then it will wait," Drusilla said, and turned to the darkness where the horn's echo crawled like a spider. "We will not." They fled the vault, the iron door folding shut behind them as if it had never opened at all. They made sanctuary in a collapsed temple near the Appian Way, where wolves had once been worshipped with wine and meat and stories told in a circle. The roof had fallen in, but the altar still stood a block of stone that remembered kneeling knees and hopeful hands. Drusilla's strength bled out with the day. She sat upon the altar, pallid even for one who knew no sunlight, and watched Aelius sleep. "Do not," Livia said, reading the wish on her sister's face. "What wish?" Drusilla asked. "To touch his dream," Livia said. "I already do," Drusilla whispered. "He carries mine." Livia said nothing. When sleep came for Drusilla, it brought the shared dream a gift or a theft. She saw a square filled with people whose mouths were stones. She saw 2 young women brought to a stake and told they were witches for the crime of being alive with beauty. A woman in crimson watched, her face the same symmetrical cruelty that adorned coins. Soldiers of House Valerius piled kindling. Fire climbed. The twins did not cry. They bared their teeth to the sky. Something in the flame loved them and refused to finish its work. Drusilla woke with a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not been a sob. "Valeria." "Yes," Livia said. "Her blood is our ash." Aelius stirred. "Who is she?" "Our aunt," Drusilla said. "By blood, by betrayal." Aelius sat up, swaying. "Why save me?" "Because you were offered to a knife," Livia said. "And we have eaten enough knives." "Because your mother sang," Drusilla added, touching her chest. "And I want to know the song." A shadow passed the cracked doorway. A man, then another cohors nocturna, moving with the respect of men who have been told tales they half believe. "Go." Sybil's voice hissed from the dark corner where none of them had seen her. "The Palatine waits for you, wolves, so does its mistress." "How did you?" Aelius began. "Blindness is a short road when you know where you are going," Sybil said. "All kings are keys. All keys cut." Outside, rain began, ticking on broken tiles like a handful of nails tossed over a tomb. Palatine Hill rose like the memory of a spine, columns like ribs, porticos like teeth. Vines had not yet conquered the old palaces. They paused at thresholds, as if unsure of the etiquette for devouring emperors. Domina Valeria stood upon a terrace draped in crimson and shadow. She smiled as the twins approached a smile that had purchased many deaths and forgot to keep the receipts. "My nieces," she said, as though greeting guests to a banquet. "My beloved disappointments." Livia's mouth curved without humor. "We burned at your wedding to the Senate." "You lived," Valeria said. "So many do not. I gave you endurance. You're welcome." Her gaze slid to Aelius. It warmed without becoming kind. "And you, my nephew, by convenience, if not by blood. How well the laurel sits upon your chest." "You know me," he said. "I know what Rome puts on the vine, and what she prunes." Valeria said. "Your mother lives, dear foolish girl. I've kept her breathing for a long time now. Breathe with me, and I will let you hear her." Drusilla stepped forward. "Do not bargain with him using a woman you caged." Valeria's sigh was silk-tearing. "It is tedious, constantly being reminded that love exists." She raised her hand. Silver coiled from her rings, chains blossoming like vines of moonlight. They snapped around Drusilla's wrists and throat. Runes flared. Smoke licked her skin. Livia sprang and slammed into a wall of invisible force that tasted of sanctified oil. She staggered and hissed. "Choose, boy," Valeria said. Voice suddenly small and intimate, as if she had leaned close to whisper to his teeth. "Crown our corpses, the wolves, or your mother. The Knight Senate will dress you in light and feed you shadows. It is very fashionable." Aelius's breath sawed in his chest. His eyes flicked to Drusilla bound, burning, beautiful, and to Livia, whose fury shook the terrace. He thought of chains, of knives, of the taste of blood that had not revolted him but woken him. "I will come," he said. if you swear she lives. Valeria smiled. Oh, she does. The living are so much easier to use. The cohors nocturna closed. A hood fell over his head that smelled of chamomile and old coins. The world went black, except for a red sound, the slow clap of an aunt who had gotten what she wanted. The Colosseum is never empty. Even without bodies, it holds the memory of a million eyes. Tonight, it was full in both ways. The Knight Senate sat hooded in the tears, and the ghosts came to listen. Aelius stood at the center of the arena, hands unbound, a courtesy that insulted him. To his right, upon a pedestal, the iron laurel lay cold. To his left, something fouler, the umbra laurel, a crown of blackened leaves woven from shadows and the breath of those who died quietly. It did not shine. It thirsted. Livia and Drusilla were bound to iron posts beneath tablets inscribed with Nosferati lex. Each breath raised smoke from their throats. Domina Valeria raised her arms. Rome, she called. Witness justice. A slave rescued from a knife by monsters claims a throne. Let blood decide. Murmurs rolled like slow thunder. Aelius looked from one laurel to the other. The umbra laurel whispered promises. You will never be alone. Pain will be a language you speak to others, not here. The city will move when you command it, like a dog that has remembered its name. The iron laurel said nothing. It waited like a father at a door. I was bought, Aelius said, his voice following itself out of his mouth as if surprised to hear it. Then I was offered. The only hands that did not treat me like food were theirs. He faced the Senate. If Rome chooses, let her choose from truth. He drew a dagger. Livia thrashed against her bonds. Drusilla closed her eyes, and a single tear of smoke rose from her cheek. Aelius cut his palm. Blood fell upon the iron laurel. At once the crown lit not white, not gold, but the color of sun seen through closed eyelids. The light spread to the sand. It reached the posts where the twins were bound. The sanctified script hissed and peeled like paint left out in the rain. The chains dropped. Livia inhaled a sob that had pretended to be a growl. Drusilla fell to her knees, coughing ash, and looked up at Aelius with a smile that would haunt him beautifully until his death. The Senate screamed. Not all at once. In waves, like the sea learning a new shore. Hoods smoked. A few figures collapsed into heaps of clothing that had no one left to wear them. Decius dragged his sword free and ran for the pedestal. Livia intercepted him with a movement like a door slamming. Her hands closed on his throat. For the boys your chains fed, she said, and broke his neck. His body folded with soldierly neatness. Valeria did not scream. She stared into the light, and as it touched her face, her glamour peeled from her like bark from a sick tree. Beneath, her skin was as dry as parchment and inscribed with little prayers to herself. Drusilla reached her. They moved together the way sisters do not in step, but in intent. For the fire, Livia said, and drove her fangs into Valeria's shoulder. For our mother, Drusilla said, and into the other. Valeria's voice remained smooth even as it cracked. In gratitude, she breathed, and went still. The umbra laurel crumbled into smoke. Silence fell. The iron laurel lay bright and patient. Aelius lifted it. It was heavy with history and shockingly light with hope. Dawn stroked the city with a hand no longer ashamed of night. The Tiber gleamed like a polished blade laid flat after its work. On the Palatine, banners stirred. Somewhere, a child laughed, and the sound did not bend around fear as it usually did. Aelius stood upon the Colosseum's topmost ring, the iron laurel crowning his brow. It did not shine now. It did not need to. It gave weight to his spine and clarity to his tongue. Livia stood at his right, her hair a dark river. Drusilla leaned upon her sister at his left. Smoke no longer rose from her skin. Sybil sat on the steps below, blind face turned toward the warmth like a flower that remembered how. What will you do, Emperor? Livia asked. The word had no mockery in it. only a new respect that felt like an old oath being spoken again. Aelius considered the city not as prey nor as prize, but as a creature that had been taught to eat itself and now looked to a different hand. No more Rome devouring Rome, he said. No more crowns that drink their wearers. Night has guarded us in secret and fed on us in secret. No more secrets. Day and night will serve the city together. Together? Drusilla asked softly. Guardians and judged, Aelius said. I will not hide you, and you will not hunt the helpless. The wolves will police the wolves. Livia's mouth lifted at one corner. We were always police. The victims never had a senate. A door opened in the amphitheater's shadow. A door no architect remembered building. From it stepped a woman whose veil had bronze in it. Her hands trembled. Aelius, she said, his head bowed as if struck from above. Mother. They did not embrace. They did not need to. The space between them filled with 1,000 nights of not knowing, 1,000 days of being told lies. The iron laurel hummed a very old lullaby, and for a moment Rome sounded like home rather than empire. Sybil rose, unsteady but smiling. Debt paid, she murmured. One more to collect. What debt? Livia asked. Yours to yourselves, Sybil said. Live long enough to remember you were once loved by something that was not night. The sun climbed. Its light spilled over the three of them. Man, monster, monster, and for the first time the sisters did not burn. Their skin did not even smoke. It warmed. Livia inhaled sharply. Drusilla laughed, uncertain and delighted, like a child walking on water and finding it solid. How? Drusilla asked. The crown, Sybil said. It does not unmake your nature. It corrects the lie that you cannot stand with men. Below, the prefect's empty armor lay cooling on the sand. Crows came to inspect it and found it uninteresting. Rumors sprouted like grass after rain. 2 shadows had been seen walking with the new emperor, shadows that refused to vanish at dawn. Men rolled up the city's awnings. Women set water out for neighbors. The Tiber ran clean for 3 breaths, and then, ashamed of its honesty, muddied itself again. Night would come, as always. When it did, Rome would listen. From the Palatine to the Subura, from the porticos to the taverns, from the villas to the tenements, ears lifted to the sky when the moon rose. And they heard it, far off and low. Not a threat this time, but a promise. The wolves who had once hunted the heart of the empire now guarded it. And in a chamber where the night senate had sat, a single unburned hood shifted as if a head were beneath it. A hand like smoke lifted. Somewhere, a black laurel shook itself and remembered it had been broken. The city slept easier that day. It would not, forever. But for now, Rome belonged to those who had saved a boy from a knife, revealed him as a king, and kept him from becoming a monster by standing between him and every other one. The blood moon would rise again. When it did, it would find the iron laurel waiting, and 2 sisters smiling with their teeth hidden, not because they had learned shame, but because they had learned mercy.